Become a disruptor in the emerging fintech space through NYU Stern's Master of Science in Fintech program. This 1 year part time program is designed for full time working professionals who want to strengthen their fintech skills. To learn more, submit your resume for a candidacy review at the URL linked to below.
Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Finovate podcast. Joining me today, we've got a fun one. We've got Dholiya, Vice President of Growth and Innovation from Celtic Bank. Dhairya, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Greg, for having me.
So let's kick things off for people who haven't heard of Celtic Bank before. Can you take just about a minute or so and give us some background on yourself and how you came into that role?
Thanks, Greg. Well, folks, it's been quite the roller coaster ride getting to this unique role at Celtic Bank. And let me start by saying I'm not your typical banker with a finance background. No, I kicked things off with a computer engineering degree from University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. From there, I took a detour into strategy consulting with Carney and PwC, dabbled up in scaling Avant, and joined the initial crew at Amount, which is a white label lending technology provider. And most recently, I was in the founding team and led the charge of launching Rocket Solar for Rocket companies. So now I've been there. I've been the kind of person who likes to think outside the box. I've kind of used my technical mindset to whip up some truly innovative products along the way. So why am I here at Celtic Bank? Well, this role lets me do a little bit of everything, leading growth and innovation, not just within the bank, but also extending our innovation and our technology as well as our expertise to our fintech clients and our friends out there. Most people would tend to follow a pretty standard career path, but my philosophy is a bit different. I believe in gaining as much breadth and diversity of experience as possible, because you never know where those nuggets of wisdom might come in handy. For example, at Rocket Solar, I wear so many hats and I lost count. From product to engineering to marketing to data science. I helped grow the business while keeping a close eye on the bottom line. In the solar game and even dabbled in developing loan product and improving the loan experience of getting a solar loan. So here I am, ready to bring all the fun and diversity of experience to the table and help Celtic Bank and our fintech friends, grow. So I hope that kind of answers, and provides a quick background.
Yeah, no, a lot of experiences there. So talk to me now about Celtic Bank. What are the key customers? How big are you? What geographies do you serve and all those fun pieces?
Celtic Bank is an industrial chartered bank headquartered out of Salt Lake City, Utah. We have three major lines of business with close to $3 billion in asset under management. We are really well capitalized with a 20%, north of 20% cash to asset ratio, and more than $400 million in the balance sheet. We are the sixth largest SBA lender in the country. We are also a specialty finance provider and provide construction loans, express business loans, commercial solar loans, and asset-backed loans. The line of business I roll up to is called Strategic Lending Partnerships, and we enable large fintech companies to scale nationally and provide a host of services to these fintech companies, which allows them to create a truly differentiating client experience for their customers. So I hope that provides a quick background on Celtic Bank.
Yeah, well, certainly your perspective on the innovation side, I'm sure, makes you a really interesting person to connect with on the banking side. A lot of our listeners do come from that fintech innovation side. What are you looking for when you put out RFPs or otherwise deciding who you'd like to partner with? I'm sure a lot of our listeners would be very curious to hear what they can do to kind of make themselves more easy to notice.
Got it. Thanks, Greg. I think it's definitely a very interesting question and a hard one to answer, because I feel like every bank, looks for something unique. But at Celtic Bank and, specifically on the teams I work for, we are really looking for fintechs with a true understanding and differentiation in their line of business. We're also really trying to identify what are the key, advantages this fintech could pose in their specific market. We come from, banking is a highly regulated environment, and finance in general is a very highly regulated environment. And as banks, we have to be very cautious that our fintechs truly understand the importance of compliance, the importance of regulatory landscape, and these are some of the key things which we look for as we kind of evaluate and put out RFPs or have fintechs reach out to us to partner with us as to what is the is the true essence of of their differentiation, and then do they understand that they are entering a highly regulated environment where they need to kind of be compliant and then scale significantly, right? And I think those are some of the key points which a fintech company can keep in mind as they kind of reach out to banks. I think another important thing for fintech companies to understand is there are two sides to the coin of a bank fintech partnership. There are banks like Celtic Bank, which have historically been in the business, of sponsoring fintech companies, which predominantly means that we support their infrastructure to help them scale and grow. And their products could be direct to consumer, it could be B2B, it could be to other banks as well. And those are the kind of fintechs which reach out to us very often, and we are able to really integrate with them. There are also fintech companies out there whose end client could be a bank of the size of Celtic or significantly larger. And I think both those both those approaches in the fintech bank partnership world often get mixed together, where people always think that a bank fintech partnership means that a fintech is the vendor to a bank, and they're providing some technology to the bank for their end consumers. But a lot of times it also ends up happening that a bank provides the technology and the infrastructure to a fintech so that they can really support their end consumers and innovate.
Yeah, and I mean, to that last point, I think we just have to get away from the word partnership, right? Because I think it covers too much ground right now. It's too amorphous to really be useful. But it's interesting to see all the different ways that Celtic is engaging, and certainly there are quite a few different types of fintechs who I'm sure could be very useful for you. Now, what about the other side? Because obviously, coming from a tech background, coming into a bank, I'm sure it's a much different environment than you were probably used to when you're coming from this we can build it, we can innovate kind of mentality. What were some of the challenges for you personally as you kind of made that transition and came into the banking side of it? What were some of the roadblocks that you had to overcome?
Yep. So move fast and break things, right? Is what I think Facebook's motto was, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think when you look at the general tech landscape, we as technologists are geared to deploy our as fast as we can on AWS, Azure, or on the cloud. We are designed to build quickly, iterate, and see if things break. And that's a mindset. If you ask me 8-10 years ago, that is the mindset I built. Most of the companies which I built prior to entering the financial technology landscape. When I entered the fintech landscape, I think one thing I really understood is that it takes a lot longer to create a truly differentiating product. It takes a lot more patience to really innovate and push something out there to the consumers which can create end client benefit. And I think when I was in the fintech technology world, whether it's at Avant, Amount, Rocket companies, Rocket Solar, Rocket Loans, the bandwidth of companies I've been with, I realized that it is better to really try to kind of think in the consumer best interest and build products which can truly differentiate. Coming to the banking world, I think there's a lot more regulation, there's a lot more apprehension to adopting new technology, and to break that, you really need to understand the history of banking in the US and how the regulations have come about, and also understand that banks are truly responsible for putting the consumer's best interest and and therefore they need to kind of really carefully vet the technology. So to answer your question, I think the most challenging part within the fintech and banking landscape to innovate is to kind of work in the realms of regulatory compliance while also truly differentiating and ensuring that there's an end customer benefit and there is true innovation, right? I think a lot of fintech companies have made it with minor arbitrage of customer data, or they have really just found a more efficient and a cost reduced way of doing business. But I think the ones which you see out there which have really succeeded and managed to attract the largest consumer base are the ones who have really understood the regulatory landscape and tried to kind of use technology to create a significant end consumer benefit.
Yeah. What about on the internal side? I mean, obviously, Celtic came and they brought you in. They wanted to make this a priority. But I frequently hear from bankers who are coming to shows like Finovate where, they'll get really excited about a new piece of technology. They'll take it back and start shopping it around the internal team and get a lot of resistance and a lot of pushback internally when it comes to, people saying, oh, we don't want to change this process. This is how we've always done it. There's this little bit of friction that can sometimes exist even within a bank's own organization. First question, is that something you've experienced at Celtic? And second question is, what advice do you have for people who, find themselves in that position where they work for a bank, they want to innovate, they want to do something cool, but they find that there's this kind of little bit of resistance that they have to keep pushing through?
Yep. Great question, Greg. So, joining Celtic, firstly, I think, one of the things which really differentiates Celtic Bank is that it is a very entrepreneurial community of bankers. And I think they really understand that change is what, has helped them get here, and change is what's going to help them continue to kind of move forward. But, yes, there is a lot of, manual processes or people-driven work within the banking and, landscape, which I think the natural apprehension is to change that. Oh, this will really change how I ensure that I've done my job best, in the past few years and in my career. I think it's you're seeing a transitional shift in the type of bankers which are at banks, and they themselves are starting to see the benefits of technology. They have understood that while there is technology, there's also going to be a lot of requirement of their specialized knowledge, which is what I think a bank as an institution typically holds, is that they have really specialized knowledge about how the processes work, how to ensure that's done compliantly, how to ensure it's done in the consumer best interest. So it is a challenge sometimes to kind of bring innovative technologies into a banking landscape and really push users to change. But it gets easier if you really try to explain to your internal users that, hey, this technology is being implemented or incorporated within our technology stack to not actually change your job, but actually make it easier for you to do more things. And when those things come about, I think training the workforce to actually learn about new technologies and kind of spend some time out of their day job to actually learn how this could reduce their burden. It could make them more efficient. It could make their life easier. Kind of goes a long way. So I think it's a lot of internal education for technologies coming into a banking landscape to ensure that everyone understands, the change that's, happened in other industries at a much faster pace. And why that, even banking as an industry will have to go through this change, right? And you're seeing a lot of investment, across banks, specifically Celtic Bank. We are heavily investing in technology and people, to kind of ensure that we continue to remain at the cutting edge of innovation within banking.
Yeah, well, and I think the focus on really communicating to everybody is a really crucial one, and I've actually given several talks along the topic of don't just point your marketing and sales efforts externally. You also need to bring everybody internal along the ride with you. They have to understand how they personally benefit from every new piece of technology, every new change that they're being asked to do. And I think in many cases, people who have something kind of just dumped on their lap and saying, okay, we're going to do it this way now, there's always going to be a little bit of resistance to that. But if you can get out in front of it and say, hey, there's new exciting things that are happening, here's how it's going to make your life better, here's how it's going to make our customers' lives better, you have a much greater likelihood of getting buy-in. And ultimately that buy-in from everybody on the team is what's required in order to really bring something exciting into the ecosystem. So absolutely agreed on that side of it. Let's give you a chance to kind of brag just a little bit. Can you talk about some of the new technologies that Celtic has been incorporating, or any specific projects or pieces that are new and exciting?
Yeah, definitely. So I think we are definitely exploring more deeper integrations into our core technology stack. We are making data the center of our strategy. I think a lot of banks out there, a lot of bankers listening to me, I've heard of these companies, Fiserv, FIS, and Jack Henry, being the core of, bank technology infrastructure. While we continue to kind of iterate and improve our, overall core, we are also looking at, a lot of middleware technology companies to kind of, create direct API infrastructure, which kind of significantly reduces our cost of transaction processing, our cost of providing banking services. And that's created a meaningful difference. We are already kind of starting to see our efficiencies improve. As we support more and more fintechs, we've also kind of started to realize that the change in in the macroeconomic environment around the rate has started to put a lot of pressure of profitability on fintechs, and they're trying to get an additional advantage in speed, efficiency, or cost savings. And because of being a bank, we are able to kind of negotiate our or leverage our combined negotiating power across our portfolio to really provide cheaper technology to these fintechs, right? So often you will always hear fintechs providing technology to banks. I think in the case of Celtic, we kind of support a lot of our fintechs in kind of ensuring that they are able to continue winning in this market and continue kind of capturing market share by working with us more closely on reducing some of their costs and burdens.
Yeah, I mean, I think the place where you sit, both in terms of your role and at Celtic Bank, is really giving you quite a perspective on how banks can do things better, how fintechs can do things better. We are coming up on the end of our time, but we do have time for one last question, and I'd like to end by zooming way out and talking about where you see the fintech landscape, particularly around banks like Celtic, and for people in roles like yours. How do you see that fintech landscape shifting over the next 3 to 5 years?
Definitely. I think there's 2 points with this. I think from a banking infrastructure, I think more banks, I'll encourage more banks to pursue non-traditional talent which hasn't historically worked in banking but understands the fintech environment and the regulatory landscape really well by working in fintech. So I think there's definitely talent migration which you can capitalize on, right, at this point. And Celtic has done that very well with hiring some strong executives in the technology roles and providing us with the infrastructure to kind of really innovate and grow the bank. And I think that's a big difference. And personally, in 3 to 5 years, I see more and more competition in the fintech landscape. I think there's quotes out there, and I don't want to misquote, but I think Anderson Horowitz and someone there published an article which basically said that every company is going to be a fintech, because I think you're seeing a larger push to embedded finance, embedded payments. You're seeing a greater push to true consumer benefit and true ease of transactions, whether it's loans or just payments. I think you are seeing record amounts of innovation. So in the next 5 to 10 years, I think banking landscape might see some more consolidation and some more true innovation. And I think fintech landscape is going to see some advantages which on what they have built in the last 15, 20 years in terms of scale, and be able to capture a larger market share of customer funds and customer transactions.
Yeah, well, it's certainly going to be fascinating to watch and to see what happens. But I wouldn't disagree with anything that you said there. I think there's a lot that people can expect and potentially should expect from the fintech industry over the next 3 to 5 years. So we are going to wrap it up there. But I want to thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. Again, Dhairya of Celtic Bank, Vice President of Growth and Innovation. Thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. It was great.
Thanks a lot, Greg. Really appreciate it.
The Finovate podcast is produced by Informa Connect in association with Provoke.fm Media. Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.